we're gonna need you to stay on for the Lakestone, and that is the next agenda. Gary is here, and I'll let you go.
Well, I'll leave it to Connie. She's smarter than me.
Okay, hi Connie.
Not smart enough to know how to unmute my computer here. Yeah, I think we're just waiting for an overall update from Kyle at this point in time. Gordon Dilber is the engineer working on the project, and he is not able to be here today. So just seeing where things are on Kyle's end.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as the update goes, when we had our meeting last month, I reached out to DEQ, sent them an email at, literally on that day of our meeting. I think it was right before the holidays. So I think DEQ, I know Chris and Katie, who are kind of our main point of contacts. I know Chris was out for a week and he was playing catch up. And then Gordon followed up with him the beginning of New Year, and Chris reached out. I had about, I don't know, maybe 30 or 45-minute call on the situation and discussed it with him. And basically where it's at is there are some complexities due to the nature of the district having some infrastructure that is maybe potentially undersized for the applications. And so one of the things that we presented the last meeting is, hey, they currently have 4-inch trunk lines that are functioning, that are, the minimum size is 8-inch for public gravity sewer. So that was kind of a curveball. And with that being said, our goal is to touch base with DEQ and understand what they would allow and not allow, and understand what sort of requirements they would have associated with this. Because what we didn't want to do is say one thing and then we get to DEQ's court and they're like, no, you can't do that, or we're going to require X. And so kind of our first step was to try to get DEQ's input to make sure that all three of us are on the same page, so that when we proceed down the right direction, everyone knows all the facts, we know all the ramifications, and we know all the hurdles. So the last conversation I had with Chris, which was maybe about a week and a half ago, he did respond to Gordon in that email and gave an update that he's digging into a few of these items. But the gist of it is, we're not quite sure how DEQ is going to allow or what they will require with future improvements to the system with regards to the existing infrastructure. And one of the components to that, as you can imagine, is the districts I believe the facility plan that they currently have is, Bob, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's, I'll put it this way, it's got a lot of years since the last time it was completed. And I think DEQ is concerned that there isn't a more recent update. And one of the things that they're asking with a lot of districts right now is a declining balance. And so that's basically more or less proving that your treatment, your collection, and your disposal system all have capacity to handle more connections. And where this becomes tricky for districts that don't have more recent facility plans is making that transparent and easy to present for approval through DEQ. So I know that was a lot of information and kind of long-winded, but the gist of where it's at right now is we met with DEQ. They're currently working on getting us some direction as far as what they will allow on that improvement and the ramifications. And until we get that direction, I don't know if we feel comfortable moving forward without some of that direction, Connie.
The big thing for us is that, we're really trying to get to the direction of solutions, this spring, in the next few months, so that we can proceed through, public hearings and process, which all take some time. We pretty much have the design, ready to go.
Sure.
And so just with, different delays and things, if we can just stay on top of this and get to some solutions. I think the other thing that's a little puzzling to us is that, these were purchased quite some time ago. It's an existing system. What we're getting pushed into a new facility plan based on that system. What kind of a time frame are you looking at with that? And so I'm hoping that we're just not entering into kind of this default direction, but that we're having this real discussion with DEQ about the fact that those are existing and those were purchased some time ago. Just because, as we know, any time you do a plan update, that can take months, if not years.
Yeah,
to finish. Yeah, so I think we'd really like them to look at that as, hey, this owner, Gary has already bought these connections. He owns them.
Yeah.
He might have owns them. So we would just like to kind of keep it as simple as possible.
No, absolutely, and that's our goal. But the complexity of this, Connie, is if we go down this road and we say, yeah, we're good to go, and DEQ goes, well, you need to be upgrading this to an 8-inch trunk line sewer to meet minimum DEQ requirements. Why wasn't this addressed? And then
we get that.
Back at square one. And then
we get
you guys
we get the infrastructure element. I think it's just that we're hoping not to get pushed into some kind of a future plan.
Sure.
So we maybe get to more of a localized solution for these.
No, I totally understand, and I think the goal here is to keep it simple, but I think unfortunately there's been a new stance from DEQ as of recently that they're being very diligent about making sure all of these districts have all their declining balances with their current connections. They're committed and they're documented, capacities for all these elements. And when you have a facility plan that's 30 years old, there's a lot of scrutiny on that on their behalf. And that's where I don't know where DEQ is going to sit on this. And I'm more than happy to set up, another call with Chris and Gordon and yourself. Once we hear back from Chris on that, I'm more than happy to do that.
That would be great, actually. Okay. I appreciate that offer, Kyle.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have a question. Connie, we received this email on Tuesday from Phil Martinson. He evidently is a different engineer, informing us that you intend to proceed in going ahead with 3 separate lots, which kind of confused us because we have not issued a well-served letter, and at this point in time we cannot issue a well-served letter. So I'm wondering from you what the intention of this is.
I don't know that that's related to this project. I think I saw that in some of the materials, but I don't know that it's mine. Jesse, can you shed some light on that? It looks like he's with BC Engineers.
Phil Martinson, BC Engineers in Haiti.
Yeah, I think it's a different project
That's
than
good.
one you're involved in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
wrong number, so to speak.
Yeah, Jesse, you got that, Jesse?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I also have this place on the agenda for a different purpose. We certainly wanted to hear from you and Kyle's report back from DEQ, but the other thing at this point, I really cannot continue to proceed with this until we have you sign the reimbursement agreement and give us the $5,000 deposit, because we continue to spend engineering dollars, legal dollars, and our time on this. So, this is something that is our policy for any development, and we've kind of proceeded with you. So at this point, Jesse's going to send you the reimbursement agreement requesting the $5,000 deposit. We will give you our construction standards and our construction agreement. With that, you guys have any questions, you get back to us.
I got one now on that. I guess for me, I don't mind at all I mean, sort of blue collar rubber meets the road. I just don't want to pay 2 engineers to sit there, chase their tails and not go anywhere. But I get that. I would think though that from my end, right, it's anything to do with the development. I pay Kyle or whoever you pick, your guy, to look into it. Makes total sense. But if it's for updating the existing, I don't think that's in my court, right? That's more, I own the 25 hookups, I go, hey, I want to hook up, and you go, ooh, I don't know if our system will handle it. I don't see that as my issue. I mean, it certainly is my issue, but it's more of the DEQ says, hang on, you guys are already, you were perfect or you were challenging. Any study related to that, I would think is not in my court. You learn to understand why it would be. I think anything to do with how do I hook into your guys, into your existing is all me, for sure.
Well, unfortunately, at this point, we can't answer that because we're going to be subjected to what Kyle gets back from DEQ, and it may very well be that those costs are going to be passed on.
Can I address something there too? And that is, this happens on both water and sewer, Gary. And that is sometimes the DEQ will update their rules and their guidance, and they won't tell the systems that they're doing. They're saying, now that you've reached a certain point, you fall under the new rules. You were approved 30 years ago of this, and those 25 flood projects could have come in. But now we've changed our rules, and you doesn't qualify. So anyway, I know that, it's not something we're picking out. We have to go by what their rules say. So.
And you guys are normal, rational, competent. I'm
Right.
stuck. Well, it's a government world. It's
Right.
set the bar at a certain spot. So, I'll sort of sign it blind, so to speak. I'm not going to run it by and turn it off, quick stare at it. But as long as we're on the same page of roughly, you guys are pretty good at squeezing a penny, so I'm happy.
Yeah, and can I maybe add to that? It sounds like if Gary signs the agreement, and Kyle, Gordon, myself, continue this discussion with DEQ, we're going to have a little bit of an idea of the scope of that.